this content is for kids.
It's not for kids.
Isn't that what I said?
No, it's not for kids. If you are 13 years or younger, this is not for you. Do I have to kill somebody in order to actually make that point across?
No, man, you don't have to kill
Wait
no
a
one.
second.
No. When
we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. I'd buy that for $1.
Greetings! You're watching SeptumSin versus the world. I'm SeptumSin. This is Kotobukijake.
Hey?
We're here to show you what we got.
Yeah.
Show me what you got. I want to see what you got. Oh boy.
So we got a number of things, I think, as time has gone by. And I guess I'll start us out this time around. So I'll put it in there. Here we go. So the first one here we've got is a video game. I went ahead and I picked this up because I found it cheap. And that's the Genesis Classics collection. Over 50 Genesis games.
Nice.
I just find it funny that I'm playing it on a Nintendo system. Because when these games were active, they were considered to be competition.
Exactly.
But let's see here. The games include Alex Kidd and the Enchanted Castle, Alien Soldier, Alien Storm, Altered Beast, Beyond Oasis, Biohazard Battle, Bonanza Bros, Columns, Columns 3, Revenge of Columns, Comic Zone, Crackdown, Decap Attack, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, Dynamite Heady, E-SWAT, Fatal Labyrinth, Flicky, Gain Ground, Galaxy Force 2, Golden Axe 2, Golden Axe 3, Gunstar Heroes, Kid Chameleon, Landstalker, Light Crusader, Phantasy Star 2, Phantasy Star 3, Phantasy Star 4, Ristar, Shadow Dancer, Shining Force 2, Shining in the Darkness, Shinobi 3, Sonic 3D Blast, Sonic Spinball, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Space Harrier 2, Streets of Rage 2, Streets of Rage 3, Super Thunderblade, Sword of Vermilion, Revenge of Shinobi, ToeJam and Earl, and Picnic on Funkotron, ToeJam and Earl, Vector Man 2, and Virtual Fighter 2. So not a bad collection there. Matter of fact, I purchased the revamp of Phantasy Star on the Switch as a digital, and it actually comes across pretty well. So I'm glad that I could get the sequels to the Phantasy Star series on this, because it's an RPG series I meant to play and beat. And same with the Shining Force ones, one of the original tactical RPGs. So you got some pretty cool ones. You got some old school Sonic on there too, which is kind of cool. So I do look forward to popping this in for some Sega action eventually.
Oh, good times. Well, I'm going to lead off kind of... I have a theme this week, which is inexpensive pickups. In fact, this one was so inexpensive, it was free. And this was one that he gave me, actually. Septum gave me. It was a copy of the film Real Men with James Belushi and John Ritter. The Dennis Feldman written and directed film. I'm gonna be honest, I missed this one when it came out. I mean, I knew of it, but I knew of it in the way that I knew of a handful of the games he just mentioned. it never actually crossed my radar properly. So this will be a new one for me, but I look forward to it. The two of them are fun, and I'm sure they could make an interesting comic pairing.
No, it was a very fun movie. It's one that I watched a lot when I was younger, and essentially, Belushi is this secret agent, and Ritter gets kind of drawn in. And it is an excellent comedy. It's well worth a watch. I was glad I tracked that down, but of course I upgraded, so I had to. Well, I didn't have to, but it was good to rehome it someplace positive.
So sort of like an 80s equivalent of something like Central Intelligence, I guess, that sort of thing.
Something like that.
Cool.
It uses a lot of that basic humor, like, So why do they want to... So they want to get the big gun. What's the big gun do? Oh, it destroys all life on a planet. So what do they want the big gun for? Oh, to use it on the Russians. But won't it destroy the world? That's not their job. That's not their job. Their job is to destroy the Russians.
Exactly. Technically, they would be achieving their goals.
So this next one's one I picked up from What Movie 1. And that is Cosmos, a space-time odyssey. This is the, of course, the newer version of this, not the old series. It kind of has this open-up thing, which is pretty cool. I'm trying to think. What was the guy's name? Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson. And, so I've heard a lot about this. I'm kind of glad to pick it up. My father was a big fan of the original Cosmos series and books, and Carl Sagan. So, again, it's kind of cool to have this. I'm sure it's going to be fun. Well, informative anyway.
You're right.
So I am looking forward to checking that out in the future.
All right. Now, the one that I'm coming to arguably with the least prior familiarity with it, because again, I actually do kind of remember that post, like the posters and stuff for that from the 80s, because it was a pretty big deal. A film that kind of came and went that I think I actually had seen it on a couple of critics lists, but I ended up finding a copy at Dollar Tree. This was the only thing I picked up on that particular visit because, well, they were picked over. They probably had 20 DVDs and Blu-rays total when I went this time, which was very sad. It made me very sad. But they had a movie that is based on a real event. They gave us a very famous colloquial term for a psychological event, if you will. And that is the film Stockholm, which was based on the event that led to the phrase Stockholm Syndrome. And it features Ethan Hawke, Noomi Rapace, and Mark Strong. So that's a pretty good cast right there. You've also got, let's see, who else is in this one? Robert Boudreau. Okay, so those three are probably the main cast that I'm familiar with. It's actually written and directed by Robert Boudreau. And it is looks like a Canadian production, which is always fun. I don't get to see a lot of straight-up Canadian films. You see a lot filmed in Canada or with Canadian dollars, but it's rare that you see one that's primarily. So that's kind of interesting. I'm curious about this one. It's probably not going to be a priority. God knows when I'll get to it, but I would be curious to see this take on the origin of that phrase, if nothing else.
Very interesting indeed. So this other one is one that we discussed, actually. If you go back to our video about what was watched in the previous month. This is one of my October films I watched. And this is one I got from that guy who was selling stuff on Facebook, which is Full Moon High. Essentially, it is a werewolf comedy, and it is rather funny. I enjoyed this film. I'm not going to go in depth because I already went in depth. But this is a Shout Factory piece, and I got it for under $10, and that's not bad. And pretty good. It has an okay number of features on it, and it's just worth checking out. So, not much else I can say about that, really, that I haven't already said previously.
Very good. Yeah, check out that video. We had some good times there. Speaking of good times, or from what I hear are good times. And another film, this is one that I'd have to double check the production on it. I have a feeling this was one of those Canadian co-productions I mentioned. But from what I understand, it is one of the most Canadian films out there. It certainly is one that I have heard Canadians would probably either hold it as a flag of honor or probably go, no, maybe not. One of those kind of films. But a pickup from the Dollar General that I have needed to have in my collection for some time. I've needed to see this for some time. And now I finally have it, at least, so I'm halfway there. Is the filmic adventures of Bob and Doug Mckenzie in the film Strange Brew, which, of course, Bob and Doug Mckenzie are also known as Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas. I believe they debuted these characters on SCTV, correct?
Yep.
And this does have some features, including a classic Mckenzie Brothers sketch. Although you would think they'd probably try to have a few more of those, but yeah, whatever. There's a couple of bonus features, which is probably more than I would have expected. And $4 for this, I figured that's a pretty good pickup. I really, really do need to see this. It's been a long time coming. Maybe this will make it that much harder for me to hold out.
I'm envious of it. I love trying to collect Rick Moranis stuff. I really need to get SC. I need to get that thing, but it's harder to collect than you would think. And,
right.
I keep mixing up with WKRP, which is a different set of people.
Right.
That one you can get in full if you're willing to pay for it, but the other one's harder, which is sad because he's a icon.
Yeah, I mean, SCTV was launched some important careers, So
this one here is one that I know Jacob would love to see. Maybe I'll do that in March. I'll just dedicate to them. And that's Hostel, Part 1, 2, and 3.
Hell no.
This is the European release because in the States we never got the third movie on Blu-ray. It is region free, so that's kind of good. It has the unseen, uncut editions of 1 and 2, they were all that big on censoring in the first place. Cat, no. Quit playing with stuff. But yeah, I mean, this is essentially, it's about these tourists. They're going to Eastern European country, and they end up staying at this hostel. Well, the hostel is a front for this torture group that rich Americans or rich other people come and pay to torture and kill people, and they like to explicitly show all the torture scenes. I know the second one continues off the first, and I do not know what happens with the third one. Either case, this will probably remain unopened for a while, but kind of glad to have them all on Blu-ray, so that's kind of good. And I kind of find it funny that's a European release for a Eastern European film. So, hey.
Hey, you can have them. Now for something a little bit different. Another film that's been on my to-watch list for a little while, not as long because it's not nearly as old as Strange Brew, but a relatively new one. I think this was 2016, maybe, somewhere in that range. Actually, a film that it's just been on my list for so long, and I don't know why I didn't even get around to it, because it's a very, very, very skilled actor, the late Chadwick Boseman, in one of the roles that really kind of helped make him famous, which is the role of music icon James Brown in the movie Get On Up, which also includes a pretty solid supporting cast. Viola Davis, Octavia Spencer, Craig Robinson, and Dan Aykroyd, among others. So that's a pretty fun little cast there. But yeah, I mean, Chadwick Boseman, awesome. James Brown is awesome. Movie got really good notices. It was going to happen eventually. I saw it for $5. I was like, okay, it's time. I got to get it.
Oh, yeah. Chadwick Boseman's one of those that's going to get the filmography of just so that you can get it. It's not a huge filmography, right, but it is one that, you know, he's a pretty good actor, right, and he unfortunately was cut down too soon.
Right.
All right. So this one's a bit of an oddity, but I got this off of SRS when I was doing an order a while back, and that is The Idol. Gotta love that cover. That's really what sold me on it.
That is a crazy cover.
I know, I like that. And so it says here, one night, a homeless man is visited by an alien, but instead of abducting him, the creature gives him a strange-looking toy. The next day, a local toy dealer happens upon a strange-looking toy. The next day, a toy dealer happens upon the dazed man and absconds with the figure, and subsequently flips it for a tidy profit to a collector named Ken. Ken's mundane world is turned upside down and inside out as the silly-looking toy alters his life by benevolently giving him everything he ever dreamed of. But will happiness last, or does the idol have other plans for him? Looks fun.
Cool.
I like the low-budget stuff that they have on SRS, so it's kind of cool to have that. I look forward to seeing it.
All right, sounds good. So, this particular Dollar General actually was out in one of the local counties near here. I went out on a nature excursion to do some iNaturalist, and I got a green snake sighting. So excited about that finally. That the Dollar Generals were actually pretty useful stops to make. So I'm liking this. This one, there was an interesting sub-theme that I just realized as you were just, you talked about Mr. Boseman being cut down way too soon, which he really was. His filmography ended up being much shorter than we would have liked. Rick Moranis is still with us, but his filmography is much shorter than we would like because he retired early and has been famously recalcitrant about getting back in the saddle ever since then. My third one from that also featured a very popular and influential actor who had a very short filmography. Even more so than Boseman, this was someone who was cut down real young. And that, of course, is James Dean, where I picked up this picture of this Elia Kazan's movie of East of Eden, which also has Julie Harris, Raymond Massey, and Richard DeValos, and some other folks in there. 1954, film, apparently, or 55 film, rather. It was one of, I think, 3 that came out back to back to back that I think were all posthumous releases, if I'm remembering correctly. I think this one, Rebel Without a Cause, and then Giant was like fully a year later. Talk about getting too young. In all honesty, I think the only James Dean film I have seen is Rebel Without a Cause, so that's an area I needed to do some further research anyway. But I saw this, I was like, first of all, $4. But look at this edition. This is a nice looking, it's one of those like storybook kind of ones, That's a really nice looking edition. And I was amazed to find it for the price. But again, once again, this one has been on the to watch list for too long. And now I have arguably less of an excuse. but definitely happy to get that.
Well, actually, East of Eden, I have that one, and I bought it for more than $1, so I can say that that's a great purchase. Now, I do have one that I did purchase for very low. It was on a Rightstuf sale, and I upgraded my DVD copy.
That was more than
$1. This one is another one that I know Jacob loves dearly, but he has seen it, which is the movie Ninja Scroll.
Oh boy!
As I had wanted to upgrade this to Blu-ray for a while.
I'd buy that for $1.
So it's kind of important, really, in the history of anime in many ways. But a lot of it's just because of its just sheer violence. Yeah. And I remember watching this as a kid and going, oh, wow, cartoons can do this? I mean, the sex and the violence in this film was over the top by their standards and still over the top by standards today. It is about this warrior, Jubei, who ends up basically doing a video game style quest where he takes out the 7 devils of Kimon. And he beats all the bosses and then hits the mega boss and beats the game. Essentially, that's how it goes. But it's very bloody and a lot of other stuff along the way happens. So if you like that type of thing, if you like pure action and blood and guts and all that stuff, I think you'll like this one. A bit too much guts, I believe, for Jacob's takes, if I recall correctly.
Well, like I said, I'll buy that for $1. Hostel, you'd have to pay me to put it in my collection. And even then, I probably wouldn't watch it.
So Hostel's the hell no, and
yes,
and Ninja Scroll is a meh.
Ninja Scroll is a colossal meh. Yes, but anyway, a film that may or may not register as a meh for a lot of people. I'm really not sure. I feel like some people really, really, really loved it, and some people were probably offended by it, and I fell right in the middle. I found it quite enjoyable, if a little over the top. One director that we've mentioned a few times that I find intriguing and hard to pin down is Steven Soderbergh. Soderbergh has a penchant for doing just exactly what he wants to do, whether it's mainstream as hell or whether it's the weirdest art house project that even David Lynch would probably look at askance. Soderbergh will do whatever he feels like doing at that time. And that has given us some really great films and some really fun. Ocean's 11 is an indisputable classic. And one film that he tried to do, which was basically Ocean's 11 but with rednecks, was a movie called Logan Lucky, which I have seen, and it is a very entertaining film. You got basically Adam Driver, Channing Tatum, Daniel Craig, Catherine Waterston, Katie Holmes, Riley Keough, Dwight Yoakam, Sebastian Stan, Brian Gleason, Seth MacFarlane, Hilary Swank. I mean, how's that for a cast? But it's basically about a handful of ne'er-do-wells who decide to rob NASCAR. And considering my well-known views on NASCAR, the idea of people targeting it for a robbery, I'm on board. And I think the movie goes a little overboard in some ways. It's a little uncomfortable seeing Daniel Craig go full redneck because you kind of like, okay. But on the other hand, it is a fun movie, and again, that's a good price. I'm more than happy to do that.
All right. Well, my last one is another upgrade where I upgraded Weird Science
Ooh,
to an Arrow Blu-ray release.
nice.
Very nice. I had wanted that for a while, and it was very cheap. And just look at the number of special features on that bad boy.
Right.
That is a lot of special features on there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if only they'd release the actual series. We're talking about problematic movies. This one would probably be problematic today. A bunch of guys who can't get a girlfriend on their own decide to use their computers to make one from the interwebs. Well, what 80s people thought of the interwebs anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out she gains like all these magical powers and all this stuff. So it's a very interesting movie. I have to watch it again. I haven't watched it in years. Maybe I'll put it up one day or something. It's kind of a cool film. I could put it up for Accidentally Scary because of that creature at the end.
Right. Okay, my last one. Okay, and this last one, actually, let's see here. Out of all of these, Logan Lucky is the only one I've actually seen. So I do have sort of a theme here of, oh man, I really need to see that. This one really fits that theme. About 2 years ago, I think, I went and did we'll back up a bit. Back in 2007, I wrote a list of the films on the IMDb's top 250 that I still needed to see. And since then, I've knocked out most of them. There are still 3 that for this, that, or the other reason, I just haven't gotten across the finish line, even though I own one of them, and Septum owns one of them. Just hasn't happened. But I decided to go ahead and use that list to help build a list of movies I really, really need to see. And one of the films that was near the top of the list, I went ahead and checked out from the library and sat on it for like 4 or 5 months before I finally gave up and turned it back in. But then when I found it for $4, I was like, I have to get this. Partly because the director of the film is behind one of this year's biggest releases. Dune is directed by Denis Villeneuve, who I know primarily from Sicario, which is a kick-ass film. But he also did a film that I really, really need to see, which I ended up getting for $4, which is Prisoners, which you've got Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal as your main cast, but another Viola Davis appearance, Maria Bello, Terrence Howard, Melissa Leo, and Paul Dano. Music by Johan Johansson. This is supposedly, basically it's a Hugh Jackman plays a parent whose child has gone missing, and Jake Gyllenhaal's the detective in charge of the case. And from what I understand, Hugh Jackman goes shades of Taken in this one. But it's supposed to be really good. Based on everything I've heard of this and Dune, and based on seeing Sicario, Villeneuve has a reputation for being able to ratchet up the tension and to really get you involved in action-heavy drama. And I'll finally find out if that applies to this the way people say it does. But at the very least, it'll finally be looking angrily at me on the shelf until I watch it.
Well, that was an interesting 7 that we went through this time. I hope you all have enjoyed that. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe, and of course, we'll see you on the next one.
Yes, and the next one this week is going to be a fun one, so tune in.
Oh, yes. Tune in. Well, not tonight, because tonight is technically Wednesday night, but it's already up there at this point. So check
The
that out.
Vlogcast.